I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibilities to improving relationships between nations and to improve our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territories of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and the mistakes of the past and to consider how we can each in our own way try to improve in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Thank you, everyone. I am going to, at this point, turn the proceedings over to Kat McGill. She is going to do our first presentation on no foam mechanics.
Hi, everybody. Share my screen. No, don't need that one. Don't need that one. Need that one. Submit cap. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I've lost my mind. Talk among yourselves while I pull up the correct presentation. That one. Problem when you have too many presentations to pull up. Okay, we'll try that again. Except now your pictures are all over top of it. Ta-da! I think. Stay tuned. It could be the wrong one. We'll figure it out as we go. So, alternative choices. As I'm sure you've all seen, there are show schedules coming out now that are no foam. And this is something that is coming. It's here. We're seeing it more and more. And there is a reason for it. The Oasis, the green foam's been used for a long time in the industry. So why do we want to change? And that is because every piece is still here. We know better, we need to do better. We all think if it's a little block of foam and it's just a little bit, and each one of us does a little bit, but you got to think the other way. If each one of us does a little bit of good, how much good will that add up? As opposed to how much bad is adding up with all that Oasis that we've had it forever. Oasis brand, it's a name, but it's the green foam blocks that we all know. They now make a biodegradable one, Gone Without a Trace, but it's hard to get. It's also more expensive, which is we all want to keep our costs down. Chicken wire's been around forever, comes in plastic coated so it doesn't rust in the water. Tape grids are easy to use. Pin holders, Kenzants, frogs. There's so many options. Sand was an interesting one. I found this on a Pinterest, and it was an interesting way of doing the pave design. They just did a dish and made a bowl, a pyramid of sand, wetted it, and then you start adding your flowers. Because it's got a water source from the water in the sand, your flowers stay well, and you can build it up as much as you want. Kenzants and twigs to hold the design. We all know Kenzants, and there's different ways of doing them. This is one with chicken wire. and Kenzants in the bottom. Using branches and sticks and Kenzants down there. String and wire, just holding your flowers up in a vase of water. Now these are Ursula's designs. She started with the box of twigs and added her flowers, and voila, no oasis needed. Frogs come in all different ways and means. They're not just like your Kenzants with the pins, they have holes. More twigs. Pin holders come in many forms. These plastic ones are the more economical ones that you can get now. They do not hold as well as the plastic isn't as sharp to hold the stems, but in a pinch they will do. Again, many shapes and forms. We all have a collection. I know I have not quite as many Kenzants as I have vases, but I'm working on it. They come with half plates. You can get these black plates that sit on the bottom, and you can add your Kenzants or frogs. These ones up here are considered frogs. Eggshells. Again, thinking out of the box. There's all different things being made out there to help you hold the flowers up. So consider using them instead of foam, anything but foam. Tape grids, we all know them, we all have them. A lot of times they're only used, it seems, sort of floral designs or heavier designs that have a bit of weight to them. Touch more prep, but the end product works well. And you can put a leaf in the bottom if you don't want to see the stems or pebbles or rocks, whatever you like. Sticks, cores, snow fungus was an interesting one. Rocks, pebbles, sand, wire. If you can use it or reuse it, do use it because it's going to help our planet. And it gets you thinking out of the box. So I'd love to see some, at least one floral design with no foam being allowed. Make it the norm. Start showing those in your societies and in your shows and for demos. Show folks how to do it. Now I did that, and I am going to go back to my, because as soon as I started that, I thought there's something wrong here. Sorry, folks, I've lost my mind, and that's all there is to it. Is that it? There we go. It's always good to know which one I needed. It's just too bad I don't use it at the start. Let's try that again. I thought I was doing the wrong one. Designing without foam. Changing your mindset. Earth needs us. Using different ways of mechanics is a way of helping the earth recover. All that floral foam that we've ever had is still on the planet. It's all toxic. It's all here. And we need to change our mindset. But think about it. If this was in a block of foam, how different that would look. the non-mechanics, adapting different ways and different styles, string and wire. Sorry, some of these are going to be a repeat. Pins and Kenzants. It's also called a spiky frog. It was originally for Ikebana, but everyone uses it now. All different sizes and styles. Yes, thrift stores. I found some really good ones in the thrift stores. Look in a pot that you think is ugly, and lo and behold, there's a Kenzance in the bottom. So for 50 cents, you get a Kenzance and an ugly vase. The Kenzance that we know and don't know, I'd like to find these. I think they would be interesting. Different ways of using. Combine mechanics. Don't just use one Kenzance. You can certainly do it in making a more elaborate design. This is by Catherine Lindsay. It's 3 vases with plants, her sticks to tie them all together, and fern to tie the bottom and give a bit more weight at the bottom. Gel beads work. They do come in clears, but watch your color choice, because right now that's your dominant feature, is the pink. Reusable glass beads work. Tape grids. Reusable ones. This is what I've used before is the strawberry baskets, and cutting a side off of a strawberry basket, because it looks just like this. And then I spray paint it the color I need it and use that. Twigs and moss, Kenzance in the bottom, chicken wire as your frame to help give a little more weight to that frame. Okay, your sand, pave design. And that's your finished product. They set it up on a cake plate, cake tier. Twigs. Easy spring design with some pussy willows. Armatures and structures. Armature is any material, and you can reuse them. Say the eggshells, being creative that way. Wooden branch. Chicken wire, inexpensive, flexible, usable. The coated plastic is better in your design if you are able to get it, because the coated, it stops the wire from rusting and leaching, turning your plants quicker. So it's just a more sanitary for the plants material if you can use more than one. Will fit in any container, but you do want to make it a pillow. Don't just put one grid across. You want it to be a ball, so that your plant material, when you put it in, catches on more than one layer. Now here, this design, they did a ball of the wire in the bottom. There's water in there as well. And then they've done balls just for fun. But it was a way of catching your plant material all the way up. Chicken wire filled with sphagnum moss. More natural effect. Water tubes. Each one a little water tube tied on. Covered tubes, you can cover them with whatever you like. This way they've just done ribbon and it's tied in with the color. Tubes for handhelds now. Wood and oat straw. Again, anything that will hold a bit of moisture will give your plants the support and give it the water that it needs. So what can you do to help spread the word? Give your demonstrations, volunteer on workshops, flower shows, and the techniques to enter shows. Show other folks what you can do without the Oasis. Just because it's a normal class, not a no Oasis class, doesn't mean you have to use Oasis. This is a new product. I would really like to find it here in Ontario. It's Sidhu by AgriWool. It's available mostly in BC, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver. It comes in a block like your green foam, but it is made of Baltic sand, rock, and they mix it into the block. It's almost, to me, it looked like, you know, your foam that you can put in, insulation foam that you put in the walls. It's layered like that. And it takes water, takes more water than the Oasis, but it soaks it up quicker. Completely biodegradable. The only thing that's left is the sand at the end, the Baltic rock, which they call flour. So it's ground very fine. And it looks like there's not a whole lot of negatives about it other than trying to find it. So be creative. See here, they've got the water is visible, but they've just added it into part of the design. Now that was the proper presentation I was supposed to give you. I would like, if you could, that last one, the AgriWool. If you have a floral wholesaler that you're working with, ask them, talk to them, find out if they can get this in, because until there is demand, it won't be brought in. And that is it's from Holland, Netherlands. It's from the Netherlands, and it is coming into Canada, but it's not here yet. And it's called Sidhu, S-I-D-E-A-U. But AgriWool is the company that has it. And it looks to me like that is the one that is going to replace your Oasis, your green foam, and works just like green foam. There are some YouTube videos on it, and it looks interesting. Anne has got her hand up again. You will have to unmute yourself, Anne. If you touch your space bar.
Okay. Cliff Burns, from whom I had it. Cliff Burns, from whom we had it. Yes. He got some of the AgriWool.
Yeah.
Right. It worked beautifully. This is my arrangement using it. Do you see it?
There you go. Yep.
And you can leave it exposed as well, because it looks like part of the arrangement, because and it dries and you can use it again.
Yeah, it looks like moss, sort of.
Yeah.
And
you have to work a bit harder to get the stems in.
Yeah, and make sure that it catches. Sometimes when you're putting it in, it's very loose coming in and out. You just have to angle it a bit, and then they stick in fine.
We use toothpicks.
Yeah, they were saying that there's actually adding a chopstick to poke the holes in first for the larger stemmed things. But again, I watched some videos on it, and I watched a lady with Gerber daisies and just poked them right in. It worked well. I would have thought a Gerber would have snapped, but it worked well for her. We've got Dee Huddle has also got her hand up. If you want to push your space bar or unmute yourself, ma'am.
Hello, it's Diane from Kingston. I wanted to show you this.
Awesome. And where did you get that?
It's a dried flower head.
Kew Gardens. I've got several of them though, and in England you can buy them in like the pound stores. But
Excellent.
I've never seen them here. Sorry.
Yeah, I've seen them. I've seen them in Chinatown, but I have not seen them anywhere else. And I don't have a Chinatown here anymore. I saw them when I was in Toronto, and but I haven't got one here where I am now to be able to go shopping for. So sorry about that, folks, with the multiple PowerPoints. Messed that up. We have Teresa with her hand up.
Yes, the last one that Diane just held up. Could you not make something like that from clay and use it?
Yep. As long as it's okay being soaked in water for long periods.
Okay. So the pound store, huh?
Yeah.
I'll have to talk to my children, have them send some over.
Sounds like a plan. Tell them to take pictures and we'll place an order.
Okay.
Denise.
I have about 65 frogs now that I buy at estate sales. And honestly, I have never paid more than $3 for one.
Yeah, isn't it fun?
But I have figurines. I have all kinds. There's quite a, not so much here, but in Europe, there's a real collectors society. So look, church garage sales are my favorite, especially old churches. Find them. And a lot of times you don't know what they are. They're just this thing with holes poked in the sides of them.
Yep. Fun. I think that's it, unless anyone else is jumping up and down. Back to you, Pen.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Kat. That was a great presentation, gives us all food for thought. And yes, let's hit up the garage sales, the thrift stores. We'll keep seeing if we can find out more about the AgriWool. We know it's available. It's just a matter of cost and shipping. So we'll keep looking into that and see if we can find a way of getting some of it in and getting it around to people so people can have a chance. But yes, if you have wholesalers, check them out and let us know. Next, we have Ursula, who's hiding a little bit off screen. Come on screen there, Ursula. Ursula has very graciously agreed to do a couple of no foam designs for us tonight, just to give us an idea of what works and what doesn't work. We all know Ursula. She is a well-known, fabulous designer, and we are really thrilled to have you here this evening. Ursula, thank you so much for participating. And I think we will all go away with some great ideas for the upcoming season. And yes, let's all try and go green.
Whoops.
Okay, Ursula, we are going to...
Thank you, Penny.
Okay, let you take over.
Okay, thank you. I don't know whether you have to highlight me or something so that it's full screen, or people can select speaker view on their own devices.
Everyone, please go to speaker view, and then you will see Ursula. And I'm going to mute myself so I stay out of the picture.
Oh. Okay. I have a block of the AgriWool here.
How do you do speaker view? I'm sorry.
Somewhere on my laptop, it's top right hand, the little thing with a view.
Okay.
So view, and you can have different views.
Thank you.
All right. The AgriWool that everyone was talking about, a friend of mine from the Garden Club of Toronto ordered some through a local florist she ordered a whole box full of it. And, I haven't tried it yet. I just got it. So we're going to experiment with it and see how it is. We're also experimenting with coir. That's the coconut fiber, but you need to wrap that in something because it doesn't hold together by itself. So anyways, there's lots of other products coming out. Lots of companies and individuals are working on these things as well. So there's going to be more in the future. So I wanted to show you a couple of designs that can be done quite easily without floral foam. and that in the past we would have done, we would have learned to do with floral foam. And you already saw a picture of the pavé design, so sorry for repeating it, and some of you have seen me do it before, so it's not going to be, not anything new, but it is a whole bunch of sticks, birch twigs, birch sticks, dogwood, and some stripped willow that I had from IKEA. That's, these long sticks that have been in my basement for years. And I just use bits of them whenever I need them.
Ursula, we're missing your head.
I know. I'm sorry. You'll
Okay.
have to excuse my head missing.
Oh,
I figure
okay.
if you see the flowers right now, that's maybe more important. I don't know. I could try moving back a bit, but then it's, the whole thing is further away and I don't want to go too far back. Well, that has the same effect. So anyway, so for pavé, right, and there's water in here. I've got it tipped over so that you can see it a little bit better. But pavé is all about areas of color and texture, right? So you're placing materials in groupings. And for this, I just did them in rows. And I mean, it's up to you what kind of materials. Carnations work well. All kinds of flowers will work well for this. The roses are great because they cover a lot of space. So you don't need a lot of them. The full-size roses, especially when they're fully open. And when they're fully open at our flower shop here, they're also a lot less expensive. So that was a bargain. So that's only 4 roses, and that gives you a big block of color, right? I wanted to show you too, to put the sticks in here. I've got a few sticks that are going across the container, that are wedged into the container, so that I created sort of spaces, because if you're trying to put sticks into a container this size, they're going to fall all over and not stand up for you. So I start them off and I wrap them up with elastics in bunches and put those in, okay, when it's a bigger area. And then you can take, once they're all in, they're all in there, you can take the elastics off and put other sticks in between. But it just helps you so that things don't go falling all over. And then for contrast, I thought, go with the daisy mums, which have a lot of flowers per stem. And these are just a very deep red. So it kind of picks up the dark red edges of the roses. Sorry, forgot what they were for a minute. Okay. And again, it doesn't have to be, pavé. It can be the space, the areas that you're filling with color and different texture don't have to be rows like I'm doing. It's just because it just makes it easier to show the idea with the sticks. It could be any shape, and the container could be any shape as well, right? Something that has sides on it, so it holds your sticks in it for you. And some green. Green always livens things up, sorry. I've had these, these viburnum have been around now for about a week and a half, so it's been a while. But I wanted something lime green, and I usually like to use the hydrangea, the similar color, a little bit, the bracts are a little bit bigger, so they show up a little bit better, but this is the same kind of color. And the lime green just makes a nice contrast with the deep red mums. And I don't know if you can see it, but the center of the mums is actually the same lime green. So it duplicates that color.
Ursula, we have a question. The heights of your sticks are all varying heights. Is that quite intentional?
It just makes it a lot easier to cut them. If I had to, measure each one and cut, measure, cut, It's going to take a lot longer than if I just go snip, 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 right? And it really doesn't matter. It actually, you know, actually looks okay for them to be different heights. And in a pavé design itself, you don't want everything on the exact same level. You do want undulation, right? We no longer have a definition for pavé design in OJES, which I didn't really realize until this year. We have a definition for pavé, the technique, but not for the design. So when it comes time to redo OJES in 20 years, sorry, after we're all long gone, you know, that's something that could change, should be included. Okay, so you see the different colors, different shapes and textures. And, you know, the branches in here, these are oak branches that are really rough and gnarly, but cool. So they make a really nice contrast to the more formal flowers. Okay. So it's really easy to do. And, you know, we did it before just in foam by filling the container with foam and sticking all the stems in, but you don't need to do that. And Kat mentioned sand. Sand would work really well too. Put this aside. Put it over here. My champagne corks to prop it. Is it sliding? No, got it on. Thank you. Okay. Better. Okay. And then the other design that I wanted to show you, that we also always did with floral foam, is the parallel design. For that, you need a long, low container. Sorry. And I'm not going to use foam. So, you know, this is the sides are what, about 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches high, something like that. You don't want it too high. And the length is really good. If you can, you know, the longer, the better. Because you want groupings. Where's my definition? From OJES, a design in which 3 or more groupings are placed in a parallel manner with open spaces between the groupings. So at least 3 groupings and spaces between them. Those are really important. They can be different directions, but this is going to be upright. And then new in OJES, in this OJES, compared to the previous one, is that we now have 2 types of parallel design defined. And I'm going to do the vegetative parallel, which presents the plant material as it falls off my table. No, in the way it grows. Okay, so taller flowers would be taller, short things would be shorter, etc. And you don't mix up the seasons, which can be the tricky part. Yeah. So I'm going to use, instead of foam, I'm going to use an assortment of Kenzans in my container. I've collected, you know, bunches of them over the years. As Kat mentioned, you know, the metal ones hold up better and they stay in place better, right? And the heavier, the better. Some of these are really big. I've also got a, you know, that one is like a pin cup with the pins inside, a little container. So you could use that, you know, let's say you're doing a design with decorative wood or something. You could hide that behind your wood and insert your flowers into it to come out. That type of thing. I need some water in there. Okay. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I find parallel design has always been sort of a favorite at flower shows. It's one that a lot of people like to do. It's for some reason, you know, the concept is I guess, more accessible to a lot of people. Now, let's start with some of the pussy willow branches, sorry. Shotgun. A little bit different heights too, so they're not all the same, exactly the same height. Put them on this side. Okay. Okay. A couple more. They are so pretty this time of year, right? And it's nice because these are Ontario grown. You know, there are farms that grow the branches right here, so you don't have to worry. That's the other thing. You know, we worry about the mechanics that we're using, but what about the flowers and the plant material that we're using? How's that being grown? Are they using pesticides? Does it have to come by air, by planes that use a lot of fuel? All that kind of thing is important to keep in mind too. I'm going to use the Snappy Dragons. Going to be another group. Whoops. Now I'm going to switch out those pin holders because they're all a little different. Some of them have pins that are closer together than others. No? And those are too close in size and height. Because even in your garden, they're not all going to be the same height. It doesn't look as interesting if they are. Okay. Some greenery. Because these were kind of older already too. They're not pretty looking on the legs. I'm going to put some greenery in with them. Oops. I am cheating a little bit, I think, with the seasons, with the snapdragons and the pussy willows. But it's hard to be, you know, totally spring or totally summer. I did have a third one. I forgot about him. Put him just at the back here, so it has a little more depth too. I think I'll use these guys too. Maybe shorter. Over here, the viburnums. There's another viburnum here. Okay. Leaves on them. The bottom leaves are stripped off, so that's, you know, again, you have to put some foliage in there to cover some of that up. Could you pass me a Kleenex, please? Art. Kleenex. And something a little taller over here, the Lisianthus. I'm just doing white and green. I'm not going to put other colors in this time. Ooh, nope, it's too long and too leaning. Let's see. Thank you. Sorry. For some reason, my nose is running. Okay. Try the tulip. That's good. It's lovely tulips today. Yeah, they're all winding up to be sort of the same height. I don't want that, but I'd like to have the groupings at different heights too, ideally. So they're not all the same. You don't want a straight kind of line across the top. Okay. have an idea, because I'm using the Kanzans. I can actually move them around if I want to. Something, you know, that would not be as easy to do if you were using the floral foam. So I think I'm going to take this grouping and switch. Let's do that. Okay. To this guy. Let me just see. Water bottle. On this side, I'm going to prune that leaf out of here because that's hiding the space in there. You're okay. And this tall tulip, I'm going to move to the back. Oops. I'm going to put him further back because he was so far at the front. Right, and then the other thing is, of course, that you have to do the basing around the bottom. So I've got leaves from my anthurium plant to use for some of that. I've got some. Just going to turn it around to me for a minute to do this. I've got some carnations, the green trick carnations that look like moss. Sorry, they look sort of like moss, but these are actually quite old and dried up already. But they give the effect of that moss at the base of the design, which is kind of a nice effect, especially if you're doing a vegetative parallel, right? You want it to look sort of natural. And moss is a nice touch. You can also use moss in the base of these as well, if you want to. Excuse me again, I'm just going to grab some more greenery here. Let's take out some of the Ruscus. Some of it has really big, quite big leaves on it, so I'm just going to use some of that here as well. There we go. And you can cut them, you know, one stem into quite a few pieces, right? Because they are long and they've got these lovely whorls of leaves that you can chop up into individual lengths. And you get to see, right? To cover the base, right? Hopefully that's making sense. Over here. One of the anthuriums. On the other side. As well. And over here. Right. So if you don't have Kanzans for this design, you really need the heavy Kanzans to hold the tall stems for something like this. So you couldn't get away with, you know, trying to do this one in sand. So this is one where you'd have to use the pin holders something with the pussy willows too. There. There we go. Okay. Oops. If I turn it around, so that would be the front. But really, you know, if I filled the base in properly at the back as well, it could be seen from both sides, right? Okay. And I'd be happy if anybody has any questions to answer them, because I can't read unfortunately, I can't read the chat from where I am.
One of the questions was, do you have to use a fixative to hold down the Kenzans?
Very good question. If they're good and heavy, and, you know, depending on the weight of and length of the stuff you're putting into them, these are fine. These are just fine. They're, what, 2.5 or 3 inch Kenzans. So they're heavy. They're weighty. The one thing you can do if you're using heavier stuff is take some newsprint, you know, a few layers, a few pages, and cut the same shape as the base of your Kenzan. Wet that newspaper and put it under. So when you're putting the Kenzan in, you put the newspaper in, the Kenzan on top, and just, you know, squish it around a little bit. And that holds quite well. Because we want to get away from using the stickum as well, right? Because that's another plastic product. Which reminds me, there was something else that I just learned too about the floral foam that I hadn't thought of before, just in soaking it. And it was, I think, an article aimed at professional florists who, you know, would go through tons of the stuff, right, on a daily basis. Just soaking it. The water that's left from soaking it is just filled with microplastics that go into the water system and then continue out into the lakes and rivers and eventually into the oceans. And, you know, then they're found in the marine life all over the planet. So it's nasty stuff no matter how you look at it.
Another question, Ursula, with your pave, do you put water in the base of the container?
Oh, yes, there's water in there. I didn't fill it, you know, very high because I've got the container angled. But I would, when I set it down on the table, I'd add some more water because it's not quite, you know, not as deep as I would like it, but it is almost at the edge at the front, so.
Another quick question, Ursula. Do you need to completely cover the Kenzans?
Do you need to completely cover them? Okay. In Western design, our tradition has always been that if it's a mechanic that's not a part of your design, then it should be hidden, right? Just like we always hid the green floral foam as well, because it is quite ugly too. So yeah, you would camouflage the Kenzans, but you know, like by using leaves, moss, different plant materials, it's not that difficult to do. I find it easier to cover the base when I'm using Kenzans than when I'm using floral foam, because you always find that green peeking out somewhere. But yeah, in Western design, you really shouldn't be seeing the Kenzan. I don't know, unless you can come up with some style of design where it's where it's actually part of the design. I don't know.
Good question.
Do you always do your verticals first and then your base? I normally do my base first and then my verticals.
That's a good question. Thinking about it, yeah, I tend to always do the verticals first.
Yeah, and
I did mix two different things together here. It doesn't have, you know, each grouping doesn't have to be just one type of flower either. in this. It can be, you know, you could mix whatever. I could put something in with the hydrangeas. You know, there could be I don't know, daffodils or something mixed in with them, or whatever flower you like as well. So there's lots of possibilities for a parallel design as well.
I guess if you're using floral foam, it would be your choice whether or not you would like to do the uprights or the base first. But with the Kenzans, it might be more difficult to do the basing first and then put the parallels in.
Yeah, and I just find it easier too, because the uprights are really what's going to determine, you know, the overall rhythm and everything of your design. So then you kind of know how the base has to flow once you've got the uprights in there. And you want them to, you know, to work together. You don't want it to look like, oh, that's a really nice base and a really nice, you know, parallel design up on top.
Okay, if there are no further questions, I guess we have one more question. Do you feel there is enough separation between the groupings?
Good question. I think maybe these are a little close together. Maybe, you know, I would actually be fiddling around with them a little bit more to make sure that, you know, there were spaces and that things didn't. So maybe some more leaves would have to come off these guys and that, because you want to be able to, you want breathing room around each grouping, definitely.
Okay, well, Ursula, thank you very, very much. You've shown us how to adapt from our floral foam. And I'm sincerely hoping that everybody who's here tonight will get a chance to go away and play around with a whole bunch of these techniques, and encourage your flower show committees to put in classes that have no foam. I think we can act as educators and encouragers and get people away from the foam idea and onto some of these very creative ways of doing designs in a way that is green and much safer for us and for the planet. So thank you very, very much, Ursula. We really appreciate you taking the time this evening to give us a hands-on couple of examples of working with it. Question was, Judy Zinni comments, foam was great for transporting a design to a show. We may need to work more in time for designers to work at the show, as transporting designs will become more difficult. That's a very good point, Judy. As we all know, getting a design to the show is sometimes 50% of the battle. Mm-hmm. So yes, we may have to find a way to suggest to show committees that they have their shows set up so that designers can do their designs more directly on site. That right. May just be another adaptation that we have to do as we move into the future.
That's right.
Comment
that's a really good point, because, you know, something like the Kenzans, the parallel design would be great for a flower show. But what if you're doing designs for a wedding, you know, and the centerpieces are being given away? You're not going to want to give away your Kenzan. So, you know, but there are lots of other creative ideas out there.
Options, yeah. Susan Papineau is asking if perhaps the OHA could source Agrawal. We certainly, that is the idea, is we are going to try and find a source. We'll certainly work with Rose Odell and the supplies at the OHA and see if we can get this new product available and easy for people to get. That is one of the big problems with new materials, is how do you access them when you are in Timmins, Atikokan, Owen Sound, you're not in downtown Toronto or the GTA where you have access. So yes, we'll keep working on that. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I think this has been a great first start to doing some virtual shows. We have another session coming up March 1st, and I think most of you are already signed up. We only have 5 spots left for the March 1st presentation. So I would like to thank Kat and Ursula and everybody else on the judging committee that have been working on this. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody on March 1st.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're